With the release of Spider-Man 2 this week, I thought it'd be a good time to rank my top 5 Spider-Man games ever. Over the course of the year, I've gone through and reviewed almost every console Spider-Man game that's released since Spider-Man PlayStation 1. Going through all these games has made me really appreciate the differences between them and how much Spider-Man games have evolved over the past 20 years. But anyways, let's get started. So starting at number 5, we've got the first Spider-Man that released on the PlayStation 1. Neversoft's first attempt at a Spider-Man game proved to be a massive success, as the game achieved so much more than the Spider-Man games that had come before it. With the game releasing in 2000, at that point there hadn't been a 3D Spider-Man game that accurately depicted how it felt to be like Spider-Man. This game introduced so many elements that we take for granted in today's games, like the ability to wall crawl inside and outside buildings being one of the notable gameplay mechanics. With various enemies and iconic villains returning, this game offered everything you could want as a Spider-Man fan at the time. Combine the fluid gameplay with a simple story filled with great humor, Spider-Man PS1 definitely checked all the boxes. One thing that makes this game memorable is the fog that covered the city streets, as each time you went outside you could never get to street level. The plot did a great job at explaining why this is, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't fall into the fog multiple times over the course of my playthrough. To this day, this title holds a lot of charm and is still a blast to play. When you look at the other Spider-Man games that released years later, it's clear that this game created the blueprint for the rest of the games that would follow. Coming in at number 4 is Ultimate Spider-Man. Releasing in 2005, this game took the hero in a different direction with you playing in the Ultimate Spider-Man universe. In this universe, not only did Spider-Man look different, the supporting characters, villains, and story were changed as well. Just like the Raimi Spider-Man games that came before it, this game took the formula that was established in those and watered it down a bit. You still completed missions, but to unlock those missions you had to fight crime, complete races, or fight your way through combat tours. What made this game special was the ability to control not only Spider-Man, but Venom as well. As you progress through the game, you would go through missions switching between each character. If you played this game, then you know that this portrayal of Venom is one of, if not the best version of a playable Venom we have ever received. Not only was he in 3D, the way he played was similar to the Hulk games that released on PlayStation 2. You could jump really far distances, use physical attacks, and absorb pretty much anybody to regain your health. When going back to Spider-Man after playing as Venom, I found myself not wanting to play as Spider-Man at all. The gameplay with Venom was so smooth and addicting, it's easily the best aspect of the game. When you add in a unique story and a comic book aesthetic, this game blends into an experience you may not see coming. Even though it didn't get a sequel, Ultimate Spider-Man is worth a playthrough and is still fun to play all these years later. At number 3, we have Spider-Man 2, based off the second movie from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Actually, before going through all these Spider-Man games, this was my favorite Spider-Man game ever. But after this replay, it dropped only 2 spots. With it releasing in 2004 after the first Spider-Man movie game, this sequel took everything that was present in the first and fleshed it out even more. The most notable difference was the web swinging. The swinging in Spider-Man 2 was extremely fast once you got all the upgrades and made traversing across the city very easy. Speaking of the city, this game was special because it was the first Spider-Man game to feature an open world New York. You had a big map with plenty of challenges and missions to go through, with you being able to swing pretty much anywhere you wanted. Up to that point, the previous games had slowly begun to expand the city, but a true open world setting was never fully achieved. If you played this game, then you know that this is the only Spider-Man game to feature a pizza delivery minigame. After returning to this almost 20 years later, the minigame is still as much fun as it was when I played it as a kid. Its mix of challenge with simplicity makes it extremely addicting and just a blast to play through. The story is aligned with the movie and does a great job at including additional story content to fill out the game. With more villains and new locations on top of decent voice acting, this game has everything and more that you could ask for in a Spider-Man game. When it comes to superhero games, this is just pure fun. Out of all the Spider-Man games that released in the PS2, Xbox, GameCube generation, this might be the most memorable of them all. This takes us to number 2, Spider-Man: Web of Shadows. With it releasing in 2008 for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 systems, excluding the Amazing Allies edition, we don't talk about that. This game gives us a standalone yet distinct Spider-Man experience we never had up to that point. The story is centered around Peter and Eddie, as Venom and his symbiotes take over the city. If you played this game, then you know it's kind of like a zombie infestation has taken over New York, but with symbiotes. The standout feature in this title was the ability to use the black suit and its unique abilities. Up to this point, no other game had let us use the black suit in the way that Web of Shadows did. Sure, Spider-Man 3 let us use the suit, but this game did it differently. You had a skill tree that allowed you to choose what abilities you wanted to use, and you could increase their effectiveness over the course of the game. Another addition that makes this game great is how you had the ability to make choices that would affect what direction the story would go. The choices were aligned with either the red suit or the black suit, and those would change the ending and the events that happened leading up to it. Over the course of the game, you were able to play alongside sidekicks that were tied to each suit. So if you chose good decisions, you were able to fight alongside characters like Luke Cage, and with bad decisions, you could fight alongside Black Cat, among other notable characters. When you combine the ability to make decisions along with the symbiote gameplay, Web of Shadows stands out from the rest of the games. It's not like all the mechanics of this game were brand new, it's that the new gimmicks were so good that it made the game feel fresh and completely separate from the others. If you've never played Web of Shadows, then be sure to give this game a chance because I think it's great and it's overlooked compared to the previous titles. Coming in at number 1, being my favorite Spider-Man game of all time, is Spider-Man 2018. When this game first released, I was immediately hooked, but was unsure if it was better than the other games that had released before. After going through all those games, it was apparent that this title was the cream of the crop. It took everything that was great about the older games and made it better than I could have ever imagined. Starting off, the web swinging was the best it has been since Spider-Man 2, and the gameplay was just as good. The amount of gadgets you could use gave you many options when deciding how to approach combat encounters, and there was plenty of enemies to fight all around the city. Even though the side missions and activities are a bit tedious, there's a lot of content offered in this game, and it feels like the culmination of all the Spider-Man games up to this point. The graphics are the best that they've ever been, making Spider-Man and the supporting characters look like real people. When you combine the amount of suits that are available at no extra cost on top of the emotional story, Spider-Man 2018 is the best Spider-Man game we've ever received. For this to be Insomniac's first attempt at a Spider-Man game, I think they knocked it out the park. If they improve 2018 and make things like the side activities and collectibles better while fixing some of the repetition, then Spider-Man 2 could not only be the greatest Spider-Man game, but the greatest superhero game of all time. Is your list similar to mine, or do you have other games in your top 5? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like or subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.